Roadrunner, Beep Beep en That's All Folks, dan zegt u natuurlijk, dat is heerlijk. Dat zijn de animatiefilms die onze jeugdjaren opluisterden en die nog de dag van vandaag voor korte maar hevige hoogtepunten zijn in elk televisienamiddag voor kinderen en ook voor volwassenen eigenlijk. Bugs Bunny is dit jaar 50 jaar oud. In 1936 werd het figuurtje door 3 filmanimatoren ontworpen. En één van hen is vandaag bij ons en hij heet Chuck Jones. In 1933 ging hij bij Warner Brothers en werkte hij mee aan de Looney Tunes en de Merry Melodies. Hij was er scenarist, regisseur en producer. Hij won 8 Academy Awards, maakte een 50-tal films met Bugs Bunny. En toen Warner Brothers over kop ging, maakte hij voor MGM Tom en Jerry films. En tenslotte moest hij ook nog voor de televisie werken. Nervositeit, agressiviteit en tempo karakteriseren elke film van deze heel kalme, rustige man. Chuck Jones is hier bij ons naar aanleiding van het Internationaal Filmfestival in Antwerpen, waar een hommage aan hem gewijd is. Maar voor we met Chuck Jones praten, wil ik toch eerst iets van Bugs Bunny laten zien. Dames en heren, Chuck Jones. Welcome to the program. And of course, this was Bugs Bunny. Obvious question. Who created Bugs Bunny? What was the origin of this mythical character?
Well, Bugs was an unusual rabbit, and most rabbits have lots of children, and Bugs had several fathers. So that made him a unique rabbit, but he needed several fathers. I would say that the key was to Bugs Bunny's personality was in a picture made by Tex Avery in 1938. It was called The Wild Hare. And that was the first time that Bugs came out and leaned over Elmer Fudd and said, "What's up, Doc?" and took a bite out of a carrot. But he sort of settled down after that. He was kind of crazy then. And I don't really understand true craziness. I understand a kind of a controlled way. So that today he's probably a cross between D'Artagnan, Rex Harrison playing Professor Higgins, and perhaps Dorothy Parker, Quipster. So he's a very elegant character.
Yes, somewhere civilized and somewhere not.
Oh, very much so, yes.
Yes. In 6 minutes' time, how many jokes are there?
Well, in the Roadrunner and Coyote, which probably carried as many jokes as you can get into a 6-minute cartoon, there were usually 11. And some of them were long, and some of them were short, some of them were very short. I mean, I've had jokes that ran less than a second, and some of them are longer. But it's like when the coyote falls off the cliff.
Yeah.
He would fall away for 18 frames, which is 3/4 of a second. And then he would disappear for 12 frames, which is half a second. And then you'd hear that distant plump like that. Well, I felt that if it was one frame different, it wasn't funny.
As precise as that, I mean, so.
Well, yeah. But Chaplin was that way too. When I was a child, we lived near Chaplin, and his timing was so exquisite. But unfortunately, he had to do it many times to get it right. Yeah. Well, I threw away drawings. Sometimes in order to get expression, I might do 50 to 100 drawings before I found the drawing I liked. So a lot of people don't realize that. We had probably more in common with music in terms of the way we operated, because when you play the music, you have to play it. You can't go back and re-edit it.
Yeah.
And we couldn't go back and re-edit either. The way you perform is what the audience is going to see.
Yeah.
But you see, in music, it's a series of impacts on the ear. In films, it's a series of impacts on the eye.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a great deal in common with musicians in that respect.
Yeah. Now, I noticed that in many...
They're better than we are, but then...
But it's the same technique or the same
Yes.
method. Now, I noticed that in many of your shorts you light music, and I want to show a fragment from a marvelous film. And I had also in mind one of our other guests who is a conductor himself, and he conducts in an opera. So what better item to choose than What's Opera Doc?
Yes, I know it. I can't help it.
Oh, Brunhilde, be my love.
Wagner, I should say.
Oh, poor Wagner. We took the 14 hours of the Nibelung and squashed it down to 6 minutes.
If we start with Bugs Bunny, so that's the 30s, how did the characters and how did the style evolve? Do you see an evolution in your style over the years?
I think it's like almost any other form. I like to link myself to cultural matters, but we tried over a period to find out who the character is, what his personality is. Bugs started out kind of insane, and that's fine. That's like Harpo Marx, perhaps, but the problem is there that you really, unless you're insane yourself, you cannot understand the character. If you don't understand the character, I don't think you can evoke sympathy for it, and I don't think anything is funny. Real humor, I think, always evokes sympathy.
Yeah, so
you care, you know.
It should be real characters. So, I mean, so let's take
yeah.
Roadrunner or Coyote. So, do you conceive him, what kind of character he is? In what way do you see him as a character?
Well, because Bugs is the person I'd like to be. I mean, it'd be wonderful to be like Bugs, but Bugs is a comic hero, and there aren't too many of them. Even in live action, it's hard to remember any. In American films, perhaps Clark Gable and occasionally Burt Reynolds or somebody like that are comic heroes.
Yeah.
But most of the great comedians were not that way. They were wimps. They were, well, losers. And I think we all understand losers and people that make mistakes much more than we recognize people who are triumphant. So with Bugs Bunny, at the beginning of every picture, we had Bugs in a natural rabbit environment in which someone would come along and try to do him hurt, to remove his foot or his skin or send him off in a rocket or something, because he's too strong a character not to have him put upon. See, then he can fight back. And but with the Coyote and Roadrunner, it was a natural situation. Coyote's trying to get something to eat, just like Tom and Jerry.
Yeah.
After all Tom's trying to do is to get something to eat.
Of course.
And we can all understand that.
So that's rather a situation, so to speak. This is rather a situation than a character. So these two characters are locked in one situation.
That's right. Well, I'm not very big on plots because I don't remember very many. And
what did you remember? The gags?
The gags and the personalities.
Oh, yeah.
The personalities make the gags. I mean, Daffy is a certain kind of a person, so he will act in a certain way. To me, he's rather a heroic person because he'll do things that we don't have the nerve to do, you know. He always gets into trouble from it, but if he betrays Bugs, for instance, why, he will explain to the audience why he did it. He said, after all, I know I'm a nasty little black duck, but I'm a live little black duck. He'll say, better it should happen to him than to me.
Yes.
Well, we all feel that way, right? I mean, we don't do it. Supposedly, we're too heroic to do it.
Yeah.
But we still would like to avoid being hurt by letting somebody else be hurt.
Yeah.
You slip on a banana peel and fall down the steps, it's tragic. If somebody else does it, it's funny. Supposedly.
Supposedly. So it's a beautiful introduction to the next extract because we are going to look at duck.
Oh, the
So
duck, yes.
duck amok.
Sea picture, hey? I always wanted to do a sea epic. Now, Mr. Rembrandt, if you'll kindly oblige with a little appropriate scenery over the sea, let's go, men. We're shoving right off, we're shoving right off. Again. Hey, come here, come here. Give me a close-up, a close-up. This is a close-up. A close-up, you jerk, a close-up. Thanks for the sour persimmons, cousin. Now look, Buster, let's have an understanding. Now what? Brother, what a way to run a railroad. Now, as I was saying... All right, let's get this
This is, of course, an extraordinary cartoon because, well, we could call it a self-reflexive cartoon. So there is the man and his creator who are fighting and trying to survive. Thinking of gags, is there a method to invent gags? Were there methods in Hollywood for making those gags one after the other, non-stop, so to speak?
Well, the Roadrunner and Coyote could best be described as not how to catch a roadrunner, but how not to catch a roadrunner. So all we would do is start out with an idea which related to that, to how don't you catch a roadrunner, you know? But we had a lot of fun with gags in which we, for one thing, comedy is as much what you don't do as what you do. You must narrow yourself, as in any other form. We all set our disciplines. Mondrian set his disciplines, you know. As again, I like to join with the giants.
Yeah.
But in the Coyote and Roadrunner pictures, we insisted that they stay where it was natural for them to be, that is in the southwestern American desert, which is where they both naturally live. So let's say that we got a joke as an example. We said, wouldn't it be fun for the Coyote to be on skis, okay?
Yeah.
But we don't have any snow, so what do? So the Coyote then has to think to himself, how do I get snow? So then he gets himself a refrigerator and straps it on his body, and then puts a meat grinder in the front of it, and then it makes ice cubes which fall into the into the meat grinder,
Yeah.
which spews snow out in front of the skis, and then he is able to ski downhill. Well, of course, it doesn't work, but it looks like it'd work, right?
Yeah.
So that's what we do. It's basically a series of incongruities, but it looks like it'll work. If you don't believe it, again, I think you have to have sympathy, and I think you have to have a kind of logic.
Yeah.
And this was true of all the great live-action comedians, too. What they did was natural.
Yeah.
I know in some of the early Max Sennett things, they would take a man would paint he couldn't get through a brick wall, so he would paint a hole in the wall and then jump through it. Well, it worked, but it didn't seem to work. I mean, why would it work?
Yeah.
So I've used that, too. I mean, I didn't mind stealing. If Shakespeare could do it, I could do it.
Before I say goodbye to you, I want to see one more example, because we have talked about Roadrunner and Beep Beep. We must have a look at it at last.
Sure.
Meep, meep. Meep, meep. Meep, meep.